Hi everyone! Welcome to Artsonia's After School Art Club. Today we have a fun art project from Meghan Glass, an art teacher from Pennsylvania. Hope you enjoy the video and don't forget to have your artwork uploaded to your Artsonia gallery.
Hi friends, my name is Meghan Glass and I'm the art teacher at Mercer Area Elementary School. Today we are going to be creating some clay donuts from some air dry clay. I know you're going to love this one. For this project, you're going to need some sort of air dry clay, or you could get Model Magic in different colors. If you get the white air dry clay, it is a little bit less money, but you will have to paint it, but it's kind of nice because then you can easily choose the colors that you are using. So I have some white air dry clay. You'll need a little cup of water and some tools to mold and shape the clay. You can see I've used some like Play-Doh tools, a simple wooden stick. You could use like a wooden skewer. So just kind of getting creative with finding some tools to help you with creating with the air dry clay. Okay, to start making your clay donut, you can see that I've shaped the clay into a sphere. You can make it nice and smooth by rolling it in your hands, tapping it back and forth in your hands, just to kind of get rid of any of these like little cracks and lines. The smoother it is, the easier it will be to work with. And you can use as much of the clay as you like. It just depends on how big the donut how big you want it to be, really. So once you are finished making this into a nice rounded sphere, what you're going to do is just place this down on your newspaper or messy mat, whatever you're using, and then balling your hand into a fist, you're going to squish your donut down. Now we don't want to squish it too much because we still want it to have a little bit of thickness of a donut. Now on the side of the tub of the air dry clay, it says for this to dry for about 2 to 3 days before you paint it. This might need to dry a little longer because of the thickness. I usually would recommend only the thickness of 1 finger, but for the look of the donut, sometimes you might need to do a little bit more, like 2. So once you have that smushed down just a bit, we want to keep our edges nice and round. So now I'm just going to roll this right against the table, which is why it's a good idea to have some sort of messy mat. Now I'm just gonna kind of work my way around and squeeze this just a little bit just to make sure it's about even thickness so we don't have any big thicker areas or any narrow areas. So rolling this around until I like what I see and making sure it's in mostly as best of a circle as I can make it. So once you have this part, you can use one of your clay tools to draw a little circle. Now we like to draw it lightly first. That way, if we don't like what we see, we can kind of just erase over it, close it over, and try again. So you could trace something that is a circle if you want a perfect circle. I'm not worried about it being perfect. So what I'm going to do now that I like this, notice not too big. It's about the size of a quarter for my size of donut. If you made a smaller donut, you'd have to make a little bit of a smaller hole. So now I'm going to press the whole way down. And this part's kind of the tricky part because now we're just going to be digging this clay out. Now you want to save that clay because some of this clay we're going to use for the inner or the decorations of our donut. So the inner parts of this donut are going to become the decorations of the donut. Okay, once you have the hole dug out of your donut, you're going to want to smooth that out. It's going to be a little rough. So you're going to smooth that out, especially smoothing like that top edge and the bottom edge. Now, depending on how you create your donut, some might like to put icing completely over top and not show the center, but cutting out the center helps with the drying time too, so it's not as thick. So notice I've smoothed this all out. And now I am ready to add the decorations on my donut. Okay, so I squish this up into a sphere too. So now I'm going to roll this out into what we call a slab. So I'm going to push this down, and you're going to want to use some sort of wooden tool or some sort of rolling pin if you can get permission to use a rolling pin, or maybe you have one from making something out of Play-Doh. And notice how I'm flipping this so it doesn't get stuck to my paper. So flip it over and rolling in different directions until this is nice and thin. Okay, once this is big enough to kind of go over your entire donut, you will want to go ahead and do two things. Anytime you attach a piece of clay, you want to score and what we usually call a slip. Scoring is when you're adding these little tally marks in the clay wherever the two pieces of clay are going to join. So I'm going to join this icing right on top of the donut. Now, I don't have an actual slip, but I have this water, which is what the air dry clay container says to use. So it's kind of making a slip once you add the water on top of the clay. So I'm just adding just a little bit. You don't want to overdo it, just enough so it's nice and moist. And then you can lay this icing right on top. And then what I usually do is flip this over. And if you want to score the edges a little bit, so that way the icing goes on the edge, you can do that as well. I'm pressing this clay down around the donut. And we don't need all of this clay for the icing. So now I'm going to go around with my tool and I'm just going to cut off the extra bits of icing that I do not need. So press down and just kind of peel this away. But again, keep this because we can use that extra clay for more decorations. So once you have all that cut, you can kind of just take your finger, smooth that out, get rid of all those crumbs, because if you leave those on there when it dries, you will see that. So just try to smooth out your clay the best you can. Okay, once you're happy with how that looks, what I'm going to do is actually, again, feel where that hole was and cut through here. And now I'm just kind of pushing that icing down inside. Now that I have my donut with the icing, I can add some fun decorations on top. If you wanted to draw anything inside of the clay, you could do that. I like to add pieces for sprinkles and icing. So what I'm going to do is make some coils. So you're going to want to squish this clay into a hot dog shape, squishing it with your hands, and then you are going to roll with just the palm of your hand, rolling over top. So once you have your coils made, then you can do some different things with them. If you'd like, you could do some fun wavy lines of icing on your donut. So again, before you set this on there, you would want to score and add the water so that it stays in place. Now in between my little icing strings, I'm going to add some sprinkles. So you can use what's left of your coils or make some new coils from your extra clay. And you can either cut them apart with a clay tool or some sort of roller or pizza cutter. so adding the sprinkles on. Again, you want to score, add a little bit of wetness. I'm kind of scoring with a wet tool. And now I can add the sprinkles. Now we'll just let it dry for several days, and then you can go back and paint it. So feel free to watch me paint mine, and then whenever you're ready, you can always come back and revisit the video, or just you might already have an idea of how you want to create yours. Thank you for joining me today. I hope your donuts turned out great, good enough to almost eat. See you next time.